Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. Today we're going to be going over a wide range of different species of theropods, as well as ceratopsians and long-necked sauropod dinosaurs, along with a discovery of feathered ceratopsians, it seems, and smaller, well, not smaller, large dinosaur footprints, possibly dating to the Jurassic period, and what's going on with African bongo antelope, and we are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. So let's dive back into the Mesozoic era or the time of the dinosaurs. So, from Sci News, study some feathered dinosaurs had reptile scale or style scales and bird like skin with feathers. The evolution of feathers is associated with novel skin ultra structures, but the fossil record of these changes is poor, and thus the critical transition from scaled to feathered skin is poorly understood. New research led by University College Cork paleontologists sheds light on this issue using preserved skin in Cetacosaurus, a non avian feathered dinosaur from the early Cretaceous epoch, 135 to 120 million years ago, a time when dinosaurs were evolving into birds. Cetacosaurus was thriving somewhere around 113 million years ago. You did have likely certain ancestors, ceratopsian ancestors of Cetacosaurus already emerging at around the 120 million year point, but Cetacosaurus itself still had not emerged. So the fossil evidence supports partitioning of skin development in Cetacosaurus, a reptile type condition in non feathered regions, and an avian like condition in feathered regions. Okay, this is definitely quite odd, coming in from any species of dinosaur, but especially feathered individuals like these smaller ceratopsians. And it would even be quite more surprising if it was found in different species of dromaeosaurs or possibly other species of theropod carnivorous dinosaurs. Now, coming from a ceratopsian, I think it's possibly slightly more likely for this to occur, especially the reptile type feathers or what scales, mainly due to the fact that ceratopsians are a bit more distantly related to birds than the theropod dinosaurs, the non-avian theropod dinosaurs with the long-necked sauropods are. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Whoa. So the study is to take a source specimen under natural upper half and UV light lower half, showing the orange yellow fluorescence of the fossilized skin. Yeah, so Cetacosaurus is a small species of Cetacosauridae, a lineage of ceratopsians that existed over in China around 113 million years ago. It didn't really reach much more than 5 to 6 feet in length, or pushing around 1.8 meters. It might have weighed somewhere around 80 pounds, or pushing about 35 kilograms. It did not really have much of a frill at all. In fact, it seems to be you could say bald in terms of being frillless. It did have a slight bit of a nasal horn to an extent, but even then, it's pretty much just the reinforced sign horns on the sides of the skull for Stegosaurus. And in fact, let's bring up a picture of this animal. Psittaco. So when it comes to ceratopsians in general, I mean, even looking at the nasal horns, they have barely just started appearing on the different species. And also, the ceratopsian lineage at this point is quite small. They first started evolving during the late Jurassic around 165 million years ago and would quickly um, increase in size towards the middle Cretaceous. You did have certain larger species inhabiting the early Cretaceous, but nowhere to the size of individuals that would start evolving around 90 million years ago. So, this is a pretty good reconstruction of a Cetacosaurus. It's likely these animals had the ability to be somewhat quadrupedal or walking on all fours, but for the most part, likely being bipeds or walking just on their hind legs. We do have, or we already had evidence of Cetacosaurus having distinct feathers around their tail structure. However, what we just discovered seems to be um, bit more or much more in depth compared to what was going on in the 2010s. And also when it comes to the skin texture and the pigment of this
I
animal.
haven't seen this one before.
Um, oh, the specific skeleton. Oh, yeah, there are the feathers. That's how very much intact this specimen coming in from China was. It's an exquisite specimen of a ceratopsian in general, but especially of Stegosaurus. This animal did have to be careful of different species of larger carnivores in the region that it inhabited, but it also coexisted with different species of sauropods as well.
Okay,
So,
opinion on this guy.
distant relatives of the Titanosaurs. He's okay. I think the feathers, they almost look like, um,
Quills.
yeah, quills or gelled feathers. But besides that, the Stegosaurus head is a bit, I think, short. I think it should be elongated a bit more. The beak itself also seems a bit too blunt or too short too. Should be a bit longer. And the horns, I think, should be sticking a bit further up, or like they're pretty much like where they're connected to on the animal's face seems correct, but it's just they're pointing downwards, which is not really a trend of or a characteristic of Stegosaurus. They would be pointing directly towards the side. Oh, I didn't even see the youngsters. Um, they look okay. I mean, pretty similar to their adult specimens. I believe we possibly did find the youngsters of Stegosaurus, like a whole nest of them. But I think the facial structure might be a little too um, similar to the adult because you would have had it with a wide range of different species of dinosaurs where the youngsters had a very different skull morphology. Now, certain species of hadrosaurs or duck-billed dinosaurs back in the late Cretaceous period, it's about 75 to 80 million years ago, of the embryos or the nests that we have discovered, the skull structures do look somewhat similar to an extent to the adults, but it is possible that Stegosaurus, the youngsters, might have been a bit closer, really just simply due to the size of the animal in general. Okay, let's head back to the article. Yes, Stegosaurus was an herbivore, so simply feeding on different species of seeds, ferns, flowers at the time. So feathers are associated with complex skin adaptations to facilitate feather growth, flight, and heat regulation, making feathered skin distinct from scaly reptilian skin. However, the details of the transition between these two skin types in early feathered animals are unclear. University College Cork paleontologist Zishao Yang and colleagues investigated skin evolution using samples from a fossilized Stegosaurus from the early Cretaceous Jehol biota of China. So this is where certain species of long necked sauropods have come from. Also, a very renowned species of feathered dinosaur called Sinornithosaurus, which we have found the preserved feathers of, and even some of the color. A feathered dinosaur that lived about 130 million years ago and preserves feathers only on the tail. I swear. Oh, Stegosaurus. I was still thinking of Sinornithosaurus. Like it's covering Sinornithosaurus's body. The researchers were then able to explore the structure of the skin cells using ultraviolet fluorescence and electron microscopy. The fossil truly is a hidden gem. The fossil skin is not visible to the naked eye and it remained hidden when the specimen was donated to Nanjing University in 2021. Only under UV light is the skin visible in a striking orange yellow glow. What is really surprising is the chemistry of the fossil skin. It is composed of silica, the same as glass. This type of preservation has never been found in vertebrate fossils. There are potentially many more fossils with hidden soft tissues awaiting discovery.
That's a interesting one.
Um, oh, the silica.
Yeah.
Also, let's bring up sign ornithosaurus. So Sinor Nith.
Wait, wait, go back.
Oh,
Sinor.
Niths. OS.
I'm gonna assume this is what you're looking for.
Yep, that is pretty much Sinornithosaurus. It was the fifth species of feathered theropod dinosaur to be discovered. So, this is a member of the Microraptoridae lineage of Dromaeosaurs. So, it existed over in China around 125 million years ago and is from the Jehola Basin. It likely fed on maybe smaller, but um, like possibly hatchlings of different species of Microraptorians in the region, but also likely fed on different species of insects and going after smaller reptiles and amphibians. It looks like this animal had the ability to somewhat glide in the region, or at least being somewhat arboreal, so hanging out in the higher canopy of the forest. This is an interesting representation of a Sinornithosaurus. They almost gave it like a great blue heron sort of a morphology to an extent, or at least looking at the array of color as well as just the neck and skull structure. It's almost like a bit of a pterosaur too. Very much showing that this animal has sickle claws, considering like most dromaeosaurs, not all of them, they are characterized or distinguished by their sickle claws on their feet. Oh, yeah. So this is okay, it seems to be maybe taking down a smaller Microraptor. Sinornithosaurus, sometimes you forget how large these smaller Microraptorans could actually become. Could weigh somewhere between 6 to 11 pounds or pushing between 3 to 5 kilograms. So it is very capable on taking on smaller Microraptors, which would also glide from tree to tree. Um, yeah, it does seem today that Microraptor is a bit more puffy in overall morphology, and also even the skull structure isn't as slender or even narrow as what it was showing in the documentary Planet Dinosaur. It's still not a bad model, at least for the time, but
Oh, that's
in
what this is?
yeah, in a lot more recent reconstructions, there's a lot more plumage on the animal, and it's just overall a bit more. Um, I guess just puffy
Puffy.
and morphology.
Uh, uh,
Um,
uh, wait.
trying to think who this could be.
Says it's
I don't think it's a Sinornithosaurus.
says
This
it
looks like
is.
another species of dromaeosaur, though it is showing feathers towards its hind limbs. Not really very large feathers towards the forelimbs, though. I wonder what other species this could be. I don't think it's. I was saying Sornitholestes, but Sornitholestes won't evolve until the late Cretaceous.
Well, it is showing the whole thing feathered.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good reconstruction. This is a bit of a mystery. I will say that this animal, you can say to an extent, looks somewhat like Velociraptor, but the reason why I am mentioning Velociraptor is because it is also another species of theropod. And in more recent years, we have actually discovered preserved pigmofibers on the ulna, the forearm bone of a Velociraptor. So we have evidence that that animal was feathered too. A velociraptor won't evolve until around 71 million years ago during the late Cretaceous of Mongolia. So it and the Microraptorans never came into contact with each other. Our discovery suggests that soft bird like skin initially developed only in feathered regions of the body, while the rest of the skin was still scaly, like in modern reptiles. This zone development would have maintained essential skin functions such as protection against abrasion, dehydration, and parasites. That is, these are three benefits that reptiles do have when it comes to their own distinct types of scales. I will say though, certain reptiles like the skink do suffer from ticks over in Australia.
Well, they are skinky.
Yeah, very much. But it is unfortunate because you have to go in and really pull out ticks from deep inside the ear of the skinks. But besides that, dehydration is a really big thing too.
uh, Cannot pronounce this entire name. Christoph said feathered dinosaurs are delicious when fried correctly.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I will say that was a bit of a shocking comment, considering I was expecting like a bit of a question about like one of the any type of dinosaur or prehistoric mammal or animal in general. But yeah, you could say Kentucky Fried Microraptor. I'd rather not have. That sounds pretty cruel. Um, the jungle fowl today, which the chickens are the descendants of, tastes great. So it's just jungle fowls. They came or chickens. The ancestors originally came from the forests of India and China.
I thought Kentucky Fried Microraptor was pretty good.
Yeah, I know. It's just that, Microraptors. I'm trying to think of who else would probably be a bit better. You know who would be Caudipteryx? The Caudipteryx existed a bit earlier in time, but it is from China, and we do have preserved feathered remains of Caudipteryx, and as well, um, several preserved gastrolids or small stones in their stomach. So there's evidence that these animals would have used stones to help grind the food in their gizzards. They'd also seem to have been mostly herbivorous. So the first dinosaur to experiment with feathers could therefore survive and pass down the genes for feathers to their offspring. Well, this seems to be the case with a wide variety of different species of dinosaurs, especially the theropods, possibly almost all of them. At least that seems to be represented in many cases. I will say, though, with like young abelisaur theropod dinosaurs or like the Piconymosaurus, Majungasaurus, Carnotaurus, they're not usually reconstructed, at least with the youngsters, as having feathers, which is odd. They are ceratosaurians. They're not members of Carcharodontosauridae or
Don't question authority, said hi.
hello, fellow Archosaur. What else? I'm trying to think of other lineages of theropod dinosaurs. Coelophysaurs tend to be represented, even many of the adults of the coelophysaur species with feathers. Different species of carnosaurs are usually, but allosaurs in many cases, possibly due to just the overall warm late Jurassic period over in different parts of Southern Europe, Africa, North America. Maybe they just didn't need them. But in many cases, especially with the Coelurosaurs, the Tyrannosaurs, Megaraptorids, Dromaeosaurs, Microraptorans in this case, but these are very small animals. They're usually shown with feathers, but the Cretaceous was also experiencing much more mild and cooler temperatures compared to the Jurassic. And the Jurassic was also experiencing much warmer temperatures compared to the earlier Triassic, depending on where and when you were looking at the Triassic. Okay, let's head forward or possibly back in time. Okay, we're going to head back in time. So, to another part of the Mesozoic era. From Sci News, 160 million year old dinosaur footprints discovered in Chile. The newly discovered theropod and sauropod footprints are part of the late Jurassic Mahala Formation and represent the oldest dinosaur footprints reported for Chile and the western margin of the ancient supercontinent Gondwana. So, when looking at Gondwana, this is a massive supercontinent back in the Mesozoic era that would have consisted of South America, Africa, Australia, and Antarctica. A wide range of different species of dinosaurs are occurring here. 160 million years ago, we're seeing a huge difference in evolution.
I identify as Carnotaurus is back.
Hello, Ceratosaurian. So let's see. Wow, this is a very good picture. Definitely of Chile back in the late Jurassic, 160 million years ago. Are these dromaeosaurs or no? These might be some of the first of their kind, but it's not hitting me who they could be. Um, Paleoartistic reconstruction of Huaticondo during the late Jurassic epoch. Let's see who else. Actually, here I'm going to click on it real quick.
I identify as Carnotaurus said, I can't comment much. I'm streaming on Twitch.
Well, still good to hear from our fellow theropods. So the sauropod on the right. This is likely Patagosaurus, which is one of the medium-sized species of sauropods that existed at this point. Actually, we're 160 million years ago. This is possibly a small sauropod at this point. The sauropods in general, especially the Macroninian sauropods, have been around for possibly 20 million years at this point in the Jurassic. And Patagosaurus is probably reaching somewhere around 49 feet in length. We're pushing 15 to 15 and a half meters and probably weighed somewhere around 10 tons. So for the time, you could say it was one of the larger sauropods for South America, but for North America, it was dwarfed by several different species, even certain species occurring over in Africa. The prosauropods have been extinct now for probably around 20 to 24 million years, but they evolved into the sauropods. And on the left, you have a species of carnivorous dinosaur, possibly a member of the Pietsonicosauridae lineage of theropods. So there's been a huge debate in all the way, I believe, back into, was it the 1800s? No, I think it was like back in the 1970s, 1980s, because we're referring to Chile and Argentina, where some of these animals have been discovered, like Patagosaurus. It's named after Patagonia. But that's possibly Pisiacosaurus or it's Marchosaurus. Both of these animals are close to the same size, but Marchosaurus is a bit larger. Or wait a second. Actually, maybe it was Pisiacosaurus. Pisiacosaurus is pushing somewhere around 15 feet in length, or 4.4 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 1,000 pounds, or pushing 450 kilograms.
Carnotaurus said, wanted to ask, what is your favorite sauropod?
It's probably Brachiosaurus ultrox. I mean, despite there being a wide range of different species of sauropods, we've found over 130 different species, possibly pushing around 200 different species. I just really like the animal. It's just overall stature, its head structure. I will say one of the issues that I have with it is just having very long hind limbs compared to its hind limbs and a very short tail.
Wait, you just said very long hind limbs compared to its hind limbs.
It
Yes.
very oh yeah, I mixed that up. Very long forelimbs compared to its hind limbs. Um, there's another species. I don't mind like the Mamenchosaurus, or I do like those sauropods that will evolve later into the early Cretaceous period. Um, who else I'm
What
trying to
about the
think of?
small ones?
Yes, certain diplodocids, smaller species. Saltosaurs, they're okay. Even certain members of the Rapacosaurids, but I wouldn't put them too high up on the list. So probably Brachiosaurus. Let's see.
Wait. Are there different brachiosauruses?
There might be a distinct second species. Well, there are several members of Brachiosauridae, but Brachiosaurus itself, I believe there's only Atrox or Ultrox. There could be a debate as to whether or not there are one or two other species of Brachiosaurus, but that seems to be the only definitive one at the moment. They would exist until somewhere around 90 to 100 million years ago during the beginning of the late Cretaceous period. They first evolved somewhere around 165 to 170 million years ago. So back to the article, the late Jurassic fossil record exhibits notable disparities in the abundance and distribution of dinosaur track sites between Laurasia and Gondwana. So Laurasia is virtually the northern continent, so consisting of Asia, North America, and Europe. Said Dr. Marco Urach from the Unidad de Patrimonio Paleontologico and his colleagues. In Europe alone, several sites have been documented, including those in Italy, Croatia, Poland, Spain, Switzerland, France, Germany, and Portugal. Yeah, when you start heading north into like different areas of northern Germany, the Netherlands, dinosaurs become extremely rare. They do occur, but it's usually in different deposits, not during the late Jurassic, possibly at certain points in the Triassic. I think there was a certain rare incident in the Netherlands with possibly like some early Cretaceous species, but I could be confusing that with the marine reptile. Since they're
Asher, are you asking if the show is live?
let's see. Oh, well, I guess continuing.
Wait, Carnotaurus asked, "Do you like Giraffe Titan?"
Oh yeah, I do. He's slightly larger than Brachiosaurus, not by much. It seems that Titan, which is also what Brachiosaurus, to an extent, is based off of, considering we have a bit more of the skeleton of Titan compared to Brachiosaurus, but Titan reaches somewhere around 54 tons with the upper limit of the weight, and Brachiosaurus can possibly reach somewhere around 51 tons. However, I do believe that they're close to the same height, but Titan might be slightly taller, so pushing somewhere between 40 to 45 feet, or somewhere between 12.2 to um, 13.7, 13.8 meters. And then when it comes to, I think it's specifically Brachiosaurus, he's pushing around 40 feet in height, or pushing 12.2 meters.
Oh, no, you're asking what it's about. He's asking what the stream is about
So today we have been, or
overall.
we're going over an earlier species of ceratopsian in which we have discovered more intact scales as well as feathers from the animal. And also going over smaller dromaeosaurid or raptor dinosaurs from the early Cretaceous of China. We have been going over a species of late Jurassic sauropod from Argentina and Chile, as well as a couple of species of theropod dinosaurs from Argentina during the late Jurassic as well. And then later on, we're going to, well, I'll likely come up with different species of dinosaurs as we continue through this article, which is about some new footprints from the late Jurassic of different sauropod, theropod, possibly pterosaur footprints that were discovered over in Argentina. And then we will be going over bongo antelope over in Africa, or at least what's going on with a newly discovered population. So let's see.
So prehistoric to current animal life.
So, additionally, North America hosts extensive track sites with abundant ichnological evidence. In contrast, the dinosaur track record in Gondwana is markedly more limited and fragmented. Notable exceptions include track bearing outcrops in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco. Yeah, Morocco, I mean, depending on what time span you're looking at, we do find a wide variety of different types of dinosaurs. We find certain species of larger megalosaurs and carcharodontosaurs from the region, but that really won't occur until the early late Cretaceous.
They used Giraffe Titan in Jurassic Park?
The Brachiosaurus might have been somewhat based off of the Giraffatitan, but I can't say entirely for sure. I need to review over that. Let's see. Oh, and we also have found a wide variety of different marine deposits over Morocco, especially from the late Cretaceous. So this is where we find a wide variety of different species of mosasaurs. So the giant, large-skulled marine reptiles that lived in the region when it was underwater, and different species of long-necked plesiosaurs as well, and different species of cephalopod ammonites. And then later into the Cenozoic, we do bump into early species of whale that inhabited the region. So,
Carnotaurus, why do you call them tacos?
tacos. I've heard of that for a certain dinosaur. Oh, stegosaurs are referred to as tacos.
Why?
I might have heard that when somebody was playing a certain game. I don't remember who started it. It was I think a few years back too. But let's see. So, heading back or further in depth into the article. So, beyond these, ichnological evidence is relatively scarce, with only a few records from Australia. In South America, most dinosaur track sites are concentrated along the eastern margin of the continent, particularly in Brazil, Guyana, and Uruguay. We definitely don't hear as much stuff coming in from Guyana, considering that's over in northeastern South America. We still obtain fossils from the region. Uruguay, definitely much more. We even obtain like Pleistocene or Ice Age fossils from the area, such as Smilodon, so the saber-toothed cat in the region. Populator and possibly Fatalis might have been found in the region. So, with additional reports from northern regions such as Colombia, we also find mastodons in these areas too. But staying on track with the Mesozoic, um, Colombia, I believe we also find certain Triassic remains. So let's see. In contrast, the western margin of South America, corresponding to the western boundary of Gondwana, has yielded late Jurassic dinosaur track sites exclusively from Chile. Um, Trying to think of what else is occurring here. Oh, well, here's a
Oh,
picture.
wow.
Um,
Look at those prints
I'm trying to figure out where the prints are.
right here.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Yeah,
Those
that's
are
possibly a Marchosaurus or a Physiekasaurus, but I don't know. It seems a bit large, but we don't know precisely how large these footprints are. What else is around here? I'm not seeing really any sauropod footprints, unless they're like coming in from juveniles or much smaller species. I think there might be another one.
This is a Tacosaurus.
Yeah, that's what they're referring to. You forget the animals from China. Let's
How do you
see. Is
get taco out of China?
that like a joke?
They have tacos in China?
Uh, I thought you asked like an actual question, like how do you get the taco out of China?
No, no. I mean, it's a Chinese dinosaur. How do you get the taco? How
Um,
did somebody do that?
yeah, you definitely roll it up, and there's your Stegosaurus taco. Anyway, paleontologists identified a total of five track-bearing levels within the Mahala Formation in the Quebradra Huatacondo area of Chile. Footprints were produced by theropod and sauropod dinosaurs approximately 160 million years ago during the late Jurassic epoch.
Carnotaurus don't look like raccoon footprints.
Yeah, I didn't really see any somewhat. Maybe this little area over here
Oh, I didn't see that one.
that is huge for a raccoon. Um, hmm. So, around 160 million years ago, northern Chile experienced cycles of flooding and drought. While the climate was largely dry, seasonal water accumulation created ephemeral wetlands that attracted animals of all sizes, from small theropods to massive carnivorous dinosaurs. I'm trying to think who else specifically, when it comes to the larger theropod dinosaur, especially around this time over in southern South America, would have occurred here. But there is a larger theropod dinosaur I would like to bring up, but it kind of reflects the former article to an extent. It also existed in a different part of the world in a different time, and also belongs to a completely different lineage of theropod dinosaurs. It is not a member of the Piasecosaurid lineage of theropods, which there seems to be only about four or five different species of that specific group.
Somebody brought up Bitcoin in our chat.
Okay, let's see. YUTYRANNUS. So here we have a species of Tyrannosauroid, but this is not a member of Tyrannosauridae. So this is one of the um probably the largest species of Proceratosaur to exist. Proceratosauridae is one of the early lineages of the Tyrannosaurs and even of the Coelurosaur lineage itself. They first evolved somewhere around 162 million years ago in different parts of Asia and Europe, especially with Proceratosaurus, which was one of the earliest species of Tyrannosaurs to evolve, and specifically, it is from England. Um,
I hate to do this. Carnotaur said Raccoonोsaurus.
yeah, it definitely would be a bit concerning. Also, when it comes to Tyrannus, so it did coexist with smaller species of ceratopsian over in China. Now, this animal existed in the region about 120 million years ago. It was one of the last species of Proceratosaur to exist because it evolved at the very end of this family's lineage. It is a huge mystery as to why the Proceratosaurs went extinct. And no, these animals are not closely related to the Ceratosaurians, like the Abelisaurs, the Ceratosaurs. There's another group of theropods that's not hitting me at the moment, possibly like the Noasaurs, such as Machikosaurus. The Proceratosaurs are their own lineage of Coelurosaurs and also basal Tyrannosaurs. Now, the tyrannosaurs would still continue to evolve throughout the Cretaceous, but there would be a bit of a gap when it comes to size. They were still quite small within Tyrannosauridae itself at this point, but the Proceratosaurs were definitely at the height of their peak size. So this animal could reach somewhere around 30 feet in length or pushing 9 meters and weigh somewhere around 3,500 pounds or pushing somewhere around 1,700 kilograms. So, this what makes this animal very unique is that it is the largest species of theropod dinosaur that we have discovered with evidence of pigmofibers or feathers protruding off of the body of a full-grown adult. So, this is quite astounding. This is definitely during a time when China was facing a bit of an ice age to an extent over in the early Cretaceous. So, this animal did go through different seasons. Um
Carnotaurus is just making goofy comments. It says if a Tyrannosaurus bit its tongue, it would be done with.
yeah, that actually is a good comment. I've always wondered when it came to different species of, not just theropod, but even the herbivorous dinosaurs, even different species of mammals. If they bit their tongue, what would happen? Is it just such a reinforced tongue that it would hurt? It would be slightly injured,
But they
but it
you
would
said they
pretty much
can't
heal.
lift their tongues, right?
Yeah, it seems to a major extent it was quite limited when it came to the mobility of their tongue. Um, so possibly that's what helped prevent them biting their tongue in general. Okay, so let's head back to the article. Let's see. So, as dinosaurs walked across damp mud near these water sources, their footprints were imprinted in the soft sediment. Subsequent flooding gently covered the tracks, preserving them for millions of years. The Mahala footprints reveal the presence of giant lengths between um, 51 and 52.8 centimeters, large lengths between 43.5 and 46.5 centimeters, and medium lengths between 25 and 27 centimeter theropod dinosaurs. Well, I guess when it comes to the footprints, these aren't necessarily small. Is not hitting me what giant carnivore is roaming here. I wonder if it's unidentified species because I'm only thinking of like the medium-sized species for this time. Practically 160 million years ago, the largest predatory dinosaurs were probably somewhere around 3.5 tons. So, like later species of megalosaurs, earlier allosaurs. So, one surface has more than 25 footprints of minute to small theropods. Footprints lengths ranging from 8 to 13 centimeters. So it's what, a little less than half a foot, maybe around 4.5 or 5 inches. These footprints constitute the smallest theropod tracks recorded so far in Chile and possibly across the entire western margin of Gondwana. Well, that's something interesting. I'd say that's pretty good to hear. Apparently, it is quite unique across all of the continents, including Antarctica. Another surface represents the sole stratigraphic level, exhibiting exclusively sauropod tracks, potentially under tracks. Due to their poor preservation state, quantitative measurements could not be obtained. Nevertheless, analysis of the digital model enables the inference of the presence of at least 9 footprints that show an alignment which could correspond to a possible trackway. According to the paleontologists, their finds represent the oldest dinosaur tracks known from Chile and the western margin of Gondwana. These footprints serve as the primary evidence for reconstructing the paleo environmental and behavioral dynamics of dinosaurs in northern Chile during the late Jurassic, reflecting episodic occupation of semi arid floodplain and ephemeral wetland habitats. Okay. Um,
Identifies Cartoris as is the Dimetrodon closer related to humans or than the more closely related to humans or dinosaurs?
Much more closely related to people. In fact, it's very far off in the family tree when it comes to dinosaurs. It is, in fact, a synapsid and more specifically, in other words, a proto mammal. It is not a reptile, despite what early theories were of the creature, considering you could say in some cases is it has a somewhat, especially since its hips are splayed out towards the side. That's a very reptilian trait. However, it's not a reptile when looking at further analysis of the creature, especially when looking at two distinct back holes or holes towards the back of the skull of the animal, which you can find on pretty much every single species of mammal today. So, from the starfish nose shrew to the blue whale, and including us. This would also have occurred with the different species of mammals back in the Mesozoic era and even the larger terrestrial mammals of the later Cenozoic.
The idea of a shrew being related to a Dimetrodon is just funny.
Yeah, the shrews, the marsupial patarus, the uh, pegalenges.
Hotaru.
It's a species of Australian herbivorous marsupial.
I just like the
Well,
word
I
Potaroo.
think it's omnivorous. Yeah, Pataru. Let's see. So it's good to see. I think there was something else I wanted to bring up. Oh, um, yeah. I guess let's bring up this species of Jurassic sauropod dinosaur, Patasaurus. So Apatosaurus.
Wait, at one point, wasn't this considered invalid?
No, it was Brontosaurus. They were
Oh,
trying to
okay.
push as invalid, and it is its own distinct species of sauropod dinosaur. It is a more heavily built species of diplodocid, and so is the Apatosaurus technically. But Apatosaurus came after Brontosaurus by a few million years. This is a good reconstruction of the animal somewhat clearing a certain area of forest. They might have occasionally fallen over trees, like in terms of pushing them over to get to higher um, branches that still consisted of vegetation.
You made it sound like they tripped over the trees.
Yeah, I mean, there were very large trees just like today, especially when it came to sequoias, redwood forests during the Jurassic. These,
That tail looks like a lizard. I mean, a snake.
yeah, this looks like a reconstruction from like the 1960s or the 1970s, and they're still showing the animal with a very heightened back vertebrae. Too short of a neck structure, but also a bit of like a plesiosaur head for a sauropod.
It says 2012. That can't be
Um,
right.
well, I do recognize the author or illustrator, Kate Riggs. I mean, maybe they decide to bring back older depictions, which is certainly possible. I will say that the tail is far too short as well. It's also dragging on the ground. The legs are too skinny. The whole dinosaur in general. The only thing that might be closer to accuracy is possibly the skin, the skin pigment. It's very possible that Apatosaurus might have had this type of a color, but there have been many reconstructions of these animals having a wide range of different types of colorations. More of like a lighter beige, slightly spotted, but there have also been different colorful ones as well. mainly because sauropods are more closely related to today's birds than the horned dinosaurs like the ceratopsians or the stegosaurs, the ornithopods like the hadrosaurs. This is definitely a better reconstruction for an apatosaurus. I have seen this as like mentioned for it's put out there for certain other species of sauropod, but it could be for an apatosaurus. I mean, the overall reconstruction looks pretty good. It's possible that there were, or even likely, osteoderms along the back of the neck of this animal down to the upper part of the tail or the upper cervical vertebrae, definitely covering the back vertebrae, the pelvis vertebrae of the core of this animal. Now, the forelimbs look a little thin. They could possibly be a little more robust. Apatosaurus could reach somewhere around 75 to 80 feet in length, or pushing somewhere around 23 to 24 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 25 to 30 tons, possibly even slightly heavier. Now, what is interesting? Oh, okay. Those are dragon. No, not dragonflies. Those are smaller pterosaurs. I thought they were birds at first because the birds won't evolve for likely another 12 million years after. Well, I might be a bit off on that. Maybe somewhere around 8 to 12 million years after Patasaurus first evolved. So it was roaming different parts of Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, during Montana during the late Jurassic. Now, this is another old reconstruction. As you can see, the tail's dragging on the ground, also extremely thin towards the end. We do have some evidence with different species of sauropod dinosaurs, especially the diplodocids, having very thin, rod-like tail endings, but not in like a lizard or a snake's case. They also would you couldn't have it where something like maybe an Allosaurus or a Torvosaurus would have bitten their tail off, which would be possibly a bit complicated, but certainly is possible. And having the ability to grow back, it would heal, but it couldn't grow back.
Identifies Carnotaurus is asking Mape versus Megaraptor.
Mape. Definitely Mape. Though Megaraptor is larger. I mean, not larger. It approaches the size of Mape, but maybe somewhere around 8 to 9 meters, or pushing probably around 26 to 27 feet to maybe 30 feet in length. Whereas Mape looks like could be somewhere around 33 to 35 or 36 feet in length. They're pushing 10 to 11 meters. So, likely Mape. It also seems Mape was coming to contact with larger species of dinosaurs as well, larger arms and four claws too, a larger skull structure. So I would definitely say Mape would likely win. Also, when it comes to this specific Apatosaurus, it has too much, like far too round of a skull structure. It's almost like somebody stuck an apple or a pear and decided to base the skull off of that fruit.
Oh, I
When
didn't
in
realize that. Yeah, pear, not apple.
when in reality, it would have much more like diplodocid or a longer, thinner, narrow jaw structure, and also a very small, like lip or just mouth opening. There would have been very extensive cheek muscles. This seems to be the whole animal could open its entire skull, like where you see the lined, like the line eventually ending. The nostril seems a bit large.
Here, I'll see if I can blow it up a little bit. No.
It could be pushed a bit further towards the tip of the snout, but also just be slightly closed, like maybe half of the size.
It's amazing. I can blow this up and it doesn't blur.
Oh yeah, it's nice to have. When it comes to the legs, they're a bit better than certain other older reconstructions, but still a bit thin. And I don't understand what the whole thing is with the diplodocids, especially Brontosaurus and Apatosaurus. They've given them like this fat, old, wrinkly sort of look to them. Um, when in reality, it probably would have been um, quite muscular, especially for these larger diplodocids, and having an overall kind of smooth, um, scale-like structure.
I wonder if he
Uh,
used baby oil.
yeah, that would have been quite strange.
He went and rolled around in a pool of oil that was up.
Yeah, he'd probably perish in that. It'd be quite concerning. Now, I don't know of any specific species of dinosaurs that we have evidence. Actually, that's not entirely true. We do have certain instances of dinosaurs possibly getting trapped in something like quicksand, but that's I don't know what that doesn't have to do with baby oil.
Wait,
Um,
did I put this up?
yeah, yeah, it was the original one.
Oh,
So this animal was likely feeding on different species of conifers, ferns, flowers, and fruit have not evolved yet. Possibly feeding, especially during the dry season, occasionally on bark or wood. And we do have evidence from different species of long necked sauropods that they would have swallowed stones, which we call gastrolids, to help grind the food in their gizzards.
wait, I have an AI version.
Yeah, this has a bit of an issue. I mean, it's very possible, at least when it comes to the behavior of this animal, that the sauropods would have wallowed in the mud. So, to possibly help protect them from the sun, but also to act as a barrier from different types of biting insects, since mosquitoes were possibly a problem back in the Jurassic, as well as other species of insects. Now, the pterosaurs, it was showing like little pteranodons. They had not evolved yet. They won't appear until much later into the Cretaceous. You had little rhamphorhynchids. At this point, it seemed like the largest species of pterosaur that we have discovered so far. And I think it lived slightly earlier in Europe, had a wingspan of pushing 11 to 12 feet, which is massive for a late Jurassic pterosaur, pushing somewhere around 3.8 meters. I don't know specifically how much it might have weighed. I mean, I'm assuming at least over 60 pounds or pushing around 25 to 28 kilograms. Massive for the time. It isn't until the early Cretaceous that you start seeing massive increases in wingspan length and overall height and weight for different species of pterosaurs, and also a wide range of different families as well, especially when the pteranodontids starts massively increasing in variety and creating a wide range of different subfamilies. Unfortunately, the rhamphorhynchids would come to a halt at the end of the Jurassic. And around 145 million years ago, the rhamphorhynchid pterosaurs did go extinct, but they were very successful during the Jurassic period.
But
Oh,
this is a very weird representation.
yeah, okay. This Apatosaurus is very far off. The toes are, I they look a bit more like a stegosaur to an extent, but even then, stegosaurs would look a bit more like this. But also, when it comes to the forearms or the forefeet, there would simply be a massive thumb claw for each foot. You wouldn't see the rest of the toes.
I was also looking at the osteoderms.
Oh yeah, a bit far too wide. They should be quite thin and a bit taller too.
Oh, I didn't know they had them.
Yes, it's very possible that Apatosaurus did have osteoderms. Some reconstructions show them with the small little osteoderms, and some don't. The neck is far too short compared to a natural Apatosaurus. The skull is a bit better in shape compared to the other reconstructions, but is still a bit off. It should not have it where the teeth are, especially the upper teeth, are over the bottom jaw. It should be quite even with the bottom teeth, but a bit positioned at a diagonal angle. And that seems to occur with pretty much all different species of diplodocids. The core is um, possibly fine for an apatosaur. It's just the rest of the body is quite off. The tail is far too thin and short compared to the animal.
So he's not gassy here.
He could be, but sauropods need very large stomachs to digest all of the plant material that they were intaking every single day. Likely, I mean, Apatosaurus, you're talking about an animal that possibly weighed over 30 tons, is having to take in somewhere between um, 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of food each day, or pushing somewhere around 1,000 to 1,300 kilograms. Now, I did see something that tried to claim an animal like, I'm trying to remember specifically. It was a species. of dinosaur, sauropod dinosaur that weighed somewhere around 77 tons. It was possibly padding a titan that it only needed 1,000 pounds of food each day. I'm like, how nutritious of foliage are you intaking every single day, especially back in the late Cretaceous about 98 million years ago, to only need about, actually, it wasn't even 1,000 kilograms, if I said that. It was just 1,000 pounds or about 450, 460 kilograms, which is nuts. I mean, today, bush elephants over in Tanzania, South Africa, Nigeria are having to take in somewhere between 250 to 300 pounds of food each day, or somewhere around 140 kilograms.
Identifies Carnotaurus said, uh, me, me with a metal pipe or one Deinonychus.
Okay, I was thinking of like that cigarette philosophers would use, but the little thing,
Oh, pipe.
yeah. Um, uh, that better be a pretty strong pipe, but I'm guessing it's quite robust. I don't know, the Deinonychus is quite robust. I think just when it comes to certain people, when they imagine the raptors, they view them as being quite delicate, and they were fairly robust. So
How big was Deinonychus?
Deinonychus could reach somewhere around 220 pounds or pushing somewhere
That
around 100 kilograms. So that's a hard one.
those teeth might take you.
It does have a quite robust jaw structure. But specifically, it's just the sickle claws, its forearms, it has a very long reach. It's quite quick too. I mean, if you think about like how different carnivores today around the same size and how quickly they're able to jump and maneuver,
Well, birds are fast.
yeah, it's having to watch them as well, and it tries to take different bites. I mean, maybe if you have armor on, but just with a pipe, I might.
Well, depending on how big you are, 220 pounds hitting you is going to take you down.
Um, yeah, that's a really hard one. I mean, a full-grown Deinonychus, it's also feathered, so that's going to add even more extra, um, just a buffer to the animal when it comes to impact. But I might have to root for the Deinonychus. It's meant for going after animals that weigh, 10 times as much as itself, at least. So, likely going after smaller sauropod individuals, full-grown ornithopods at the time. So it's hunting like younger Sauroposeidon. When it comes to the sauropods, the full-grown Tenontosaurus, possibly even going after juvenile Acrocanthosaurs. It's almost like a smaller Utah raptor. So it's hard enough, fighting off something like, um, a pack of coyotes in some instance, in some instances. But yeah, Deinonychus, I'd have to say Deinonychus has the upper hand.
For those of you that don't know what we're talking about,
Oh yeah, here we go. This is definitely an
that's what he's talking about
interesting,
fighting.
reconstruction. I'd say though, this looks a bit more of like a velociraptor to an extent, especially looking at the skull structure. That is not Deinonychus like at all.
Okay, so hold
Um,
on.
yeah, it's something more on lines of Velociraptor and I. They are giving it quite wide sickle claws though. This might be a Deinonychus reconstruction. Yeah, it's just this animal is quite heavily built for its size. Oh yeah, they've even got the Walking with Dinosaurs Diplodocus in the background. But yeah, that's the problem. And just when it comes to exhibiting force without even using its claws is a lot coming from this animal. Oh yeah, so here it is taking on a young Sora Poseidon. Yeah, that's the other thing. It possibly had the ability to latch on to a prey item. So, um, possibly not even likely to get out of that sort of a position. That's why the little mammals would later evolve or create firearms because of these things. Okay, so
Well,
um
that didn't help him in what was that movie? Primal Carnage? No,
Primitive war.
Primitive War. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I guess it's also why mammals also evolved martial arts too. But that only helps you so much with a Deinonychus and a Equilibrator. I mean, even a Velociraptor would probably uh be a bit of a hard task to handle. I mean, considering the animal still only weighs maybe 20 to 30 pounds or pushing around 8 to 12 kilograms. But yeah, I'd say Deinonychus. I really wouldn't want any species of mammalian carnivore today really going after or having to face off a Deinonychus because it just has such a wide array of weapons. I mean, you could say certain larger ones, or larger carnivores, even like earlier in the Cenozoic era, the Ice Age, the Pliocene epoch. You even go back to the Miocene or Oligocene with the hyenodontids. Definitely, I wouldn't want any modern carnivores having to face off something like an Equilibrator, the debatable Dakota Raptor, or a Utah Raptor. Not even a chance. Um, it's none of them are a match for the animal, and I wouldn't even want any of the herbivores having to deal with that specific creature either. Even the rhinos, it's wouldn't take very much. Okay, let's head back to the article. That is, yeah, a pretty good reconstruction of a Deinonychus. I still think it's a bit of a long head, though.
I think you finished.
Did I? I guess I did. Okay, let's head forward into the Cenozoic era. So, from discovermagazine.com, a rare antelope species was just spotted in Kenya years after being thought locally extinct. Where's the thing? Does it exist? Oh, I think these are at a zoo.
Yeah, I
Says
think I see
mountain.
fencing behind them.
Yeah, mountain bongo and a baby at the Chester Zoo. So, a rare antelope species may be reemerging in an area where it was once thought to be locally extinct, a discovery that is giving some conservationists hope. In the past few decades, the wild mountain bongo and antelope found in Kenya has seen its population dwindle to small, fragmented areas, including in the mountains of Aberdare National Park. That is until trail cam photos captured something incredible. Bongos in a fragment of the Masai Mara forest about 125 miles or about 200 kilometers away. Also, you had it to where earlier, I believe back in 2025, they released about 17 or 18. I think they were mountain bongos into this specific area of Kenya, unless it was like an adjacent wildlife conservancy, considering there are a wide variety of different wildlife conservancies, different national parks, wildlife refuges, I believe, and game reserves over in Kenya. And then there are like the hunting reserves, but I don't exactly know how those specifically work, but it's not just hunting consistently going on. There's a lot of conservation work and in progress. Now, technically, hunting is a part of that. It's usually of the species that are much more common. The excitement in camp was unbelievable when we first looked through the photos. Oscar Dyer, the director of operations at the Mountain Bongo Project, said in a press release, "This image is the result of years of hard work by our rangers on the ground in one of Kenya's most inaccessible forests. Seeing a bongo here again is incredibly exciting and it reinforces our determination to continue searching, protecting this forest, and finding evidence of more bongos in the area." I mean, that is still good to hear. They are extremely rare. I think there's only somewhere around 100 to 150 of the mountain bongo subspecies in existence. There are many more forest bongos over in different parts of Central Africa. So, like the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Republic of the Congo, Cameroon, and then over into different parts of Nigeria, I believe Senegal, and Malawi. Um, So, what happened to the wild mountain bongos? Before the trail cam photos, MBP, the Chester Zoo, the Mountain Kenya Wildlife Conservancy, and the Kenya Wildlife Service partnered to conduct a high tech survey of mountain bongo populations in 2025. The AI results indicated that at the time, only 28 bongos were living in the Aberdare region. Whoa, that is extremely low.
But wait, it's AI.
Yeah, it could be off, but I mean, for how rare the wild mountain bongos are in general, it's not a surprising number to hear. The rangers from the MBP believe the number is close to 40. According to the press release, bongos have been greatly, yeah. Okay, so and back in April 6th of 2026, around 4:24 a.m., there was a young male bongo captured on the trail cam at night. He definitely seems like a healthy individual. Bongos also, depending on the subspecies, have very different arranged horns. So if you're looking at certain forest bongos, they have larger horns compared to the mountain bongos. Mountain bongos are also smaller compared to forest bongos in general. Forest bongos can reach somewhere around 900 pounds or pushing somewhere around 430 kilograms. They are the largest antelope after the giant eland. However, both it and the giant eland do belong to the same family of antelope that have existed since the Miocene epoch, about 23 million years ago. And the bongo itself first evolved during the Ice Age. Actually, no, I'm going to correct myself. Back in the Middle Pliocene epoch, about 5 million years ago, over in Africa, sub Saharan Africa specifically. And they are endemic to the region, they are not found elsewhere. And that even occurred back in the Pliocene and the Pleistocene or the Ice Age too. So they're a very successful species. They have survived, um, I guess, and we're just in the Holocene epoch. But they have encountered 3 different epochs of the Cenozoic era, so they have been doing quite well, leaving out the recent, population decrease. And yes, they are herbivores, and they're also very calm and contempt, with themselves, like the Okapi are over in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And as well as I think over in Rwanda, you might have certain Okapi populations, which is the shorter giraffe. Okay, let's continue. So I believe the world would be poorer for their loss. Tommaso Sandri, a Chester Zoo conservationist and MBP advisory council member, said in the press release, "Their presence makes the world or makes the forest more magical." Okay, so let's continue down. Also, the bongo was first discovered or first described. I'm not sure when it was first discovered by William O'Leary. He's an Irish or was an Irish, naturalist back in the 1800s and zoologist, I believe. He also did studies on or found, made different discoveries on howler monkeys, or certain other species of monkeys over in South America. He also did different research on different species of possum, especially the ringtail possum, common ringtail possum over in Australia, and the common duker antelope, as well as the bongo over in Africa. Believe there were certain other species. Though the wild populations are small, these photos from Masai Mao have given researchers a renewed sense of hope. One of the bongos on the trail cam is a mature male that Sandrai likely identified back in 2018. Though bongos are large, they are very shy. They are demure. Coupled with their low population numbers, this can make them hard to track. But according to Sandra, if the bongo had been able to stay hidden for this long, it's possible that other bongos could also be in the area. So here's the adult male bongo captured on the trail cam. Don't know when exactly, but I'm guessing it's around the same time as the other bongo in the picture. The forest bongos tend to have much larger or not antlers, horns that stick a bit towards the side, and they can reach about 39 inches in length. They're pushing um, what, somewhere around 120, 130 centimeters. Soon after, more photos revealed a young male and female bongo in the area. This is huge news, Sandrai said in the press release. Unlike Aberdaris, Masai Mao is not a national park, and the reappearance of bongo may focus organizations on increasing broader protections. It's a testament to the persistence of the MBP rangers who work in incredibly difficult and isolated conditions to monitor and protect this antelope. Yeah, so I believe they belong to Trephulini, which also includes the greater kudu, and I think at least 8 other different species of current modern day antelope. And then that's also not including the different species of Ice Age and Pliocene and Miocene antelope that belong to this family in general. So with these new images, bongo experts, including those from Chester Zoo and other organizations, are working on a plan to implement safeguards to better protect mountain bongos. The few seen in Masai Mara are exciting, but there's still much to learn about them and plenty of conservation work left to do. So here's a young female bongo on the trail cam. So back in February 20th, 2026, around 2:30 p.m. Definitely during the wet season. As you can see, there's a lot of greenery, and it's a wet season at that point. So the Mao population represents a significant genetic pool for mountain bongos and is a therefore vital for long-term conservation. Robert Arujo, head of the MKWC, said in the press release. According to the Chester Zoo, about 900 bongos live in sanctuaries and zoos worldwide. Yeah, I actually find that quite bit astonishing. Question is how much genetic variety is there, but I think of at least the 17 or 18 individuals that were released last year.
I am
Nice.
Carnotaur said, wait a minute, I just lost it. Bongo Boy, BOI.
Um,
Looks like a is it a
yeah,
game or a song?
could be a song. I haven't heard of a game called that.
I just pulled it up, but I don't want to play it. Oh, it's a song and lyrics.
So let's see. So various organizations are working to protect wild populations and reintroduce some bongos to the wild. Reintroducing some of these bongos into the wild as the coordinated effort led by Chester Zoo did with 4 males could also increase genetic diversity and help bongo populations grow. Um, I don't know if those 4 males were a part of that other release or this is of another relocation that I'm not familiar with. Mountain Bongo is not beyond saving, but it does need us to act together. Dyer added. Okay, so collaboration. Okay, it's just being a bit repetitive. Okay, well, this is really good to hear about the bongos, mountain bongos showing up in this really small part of Kenya. They are very distant from the forest bongos over in Central and West Africa. Okay. Okay, so before I go off, if anybody wants to ask any questions about prehistoric or current animals, so including dinosaurs, prehistoric mammals, leave it in the comments and I'll give everybody about a minute.
I'm Carnotaur said, can you talk about Centrosaurus?
Oh, yeah, sure. Um. Oh well, should we pull up some pictures?
I am.
Oh, do you already have him up there?
Hold on.
Oh well, he's here. He typed it out. Okay, so Centrosaurus did evolve about somewhere between 6 to 8 million years before Triceratops would evolve, and it occurred over Centrosaurus or Ceratosaurus?
Oh, hold on. Did I put Ceratus? I put Centrosaurus. Is this Ceratosaurus? It says Centrosaurus.
Like Centro
Oh,
or
I
Cera?
put Ceratus. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure. I may have
I
made a
mean, I can
mistake.
describe him too. Interesting. They're depicting him eating a fish.
No, it said Ceratosaurus, not Centrosaurus.
Oh,
I was wrong.
okay. All right. So let's head back to the late Jurassic. Actually, what is interesting is that Ceratosaurus is usually known from North America. However, there do seem to be um, a certain specimen of this animal. I believe that was found in late Jurassic Brazil or possibly Argentina. Though it might have been maybe Paraguay in the region. Somewhere around that area in South America, dating to the late Jurassic, which is definitely not somewhere that you'll find, for instance, Allosaurus or Torvosaurus. But Ceratosaurus was a species of theropod dinosaur, one of the larger medium-sized species that existed over in Colorado, Wyoming, Utah during the late Jurassic about 151 million years ago. It also has some of the longest teeth, you could say, compared to its skull size of almost any other meat eating species of dinosaur or the theropods in general. Now, because there have been some instances where Ceratosaurus has almost been called like the saber tooth um, theropod of dinosaurs, or not necessarily maybe even saber tooth, but just has elongated canines, which it technically doesn't. Its teeth are, in many cases, very similar to many other lineages of theropod dinosaurs when you look at their overall structure and the way that they're arrayed around the skull.
This one looks like it's starving to death.
Yeah, it does. I don't know what specifically this is from, but yeah, when it comes to Ceratosaurus and the horn-like structures on the top of its skull, it probably didn't use them for combat. They seem rather delicate, so very likely they were just used to and attract mates during the breeding season, as well as intimidate other males when fighting over territory or possibly a carcass. Now, when it comes to the carcass and like competition with other individuals, it really varies depending on the species when this occurs because you can have it, and it also differs with different species of reptiles, birds, mammals. You can have it where a certain species is actually quite docile when stranger members of its species come over to start feeding on the same, for instance, carcass. Especially when you look at like cougars or mountain lions over in different parts of California, Colorado, Wyoming, possibly even Michigan at this point. And you can have it where there's a mother with her cubs, they're feeding on a carcass, and then a stranger male comes over, and there really isn't any tension within that specific social structure. Whereas even you look at certain species of birds, and you can have it like where, for instance, vultures, there can be several different stranger individuals, but I might have to double check with the vultures. It also varies depending on the species. Okay. Looks like somebody like mixing Dominus Rex with a Ceratosaurus and um maybe a Gorgosaurus to a slight extent.
I just thought it was funny.
Ceratosaurus, depending on the species, could reach somewhere around 25 feet in length or pushing 7.7 meters and probably weigh somewhere around 1.5 tons. And this animal is likely feeding on smaller sauropod individuals. There are certain instances where it is reconstructed as going after different stegosaurs, which is very possible. This animal could have hunted smaller stegosaurus individuals. Let's see, what's the other thing? Well, I mean, there's a wide range of different um, like morphological and biological features of ceratosaurs that have been discovered. But this animal, you could say it does have somewhat binocular vision, so being able to see straight in front of itself, but just not to the extent of certain later lineages of theropod dinosaurs.
Okay. Identifies Carnosaurus says Bellysaurs evolved from Centrosaurs? Centro
Ceratosaurs.
Yeah.
Um, they did Abelisaurs they did evolve from Ceratosauridae, not from the Ceratosaurs specifically. Their own lineage ended up dying off a bit after the late Jurassic. Oh yeah, this is one of the much older depictions, I think from like the 1800s of Ceratosaurus. It's definitely depicting the animal as having an extremely long nasal horn, almost like having an iguanodon thumb spike, which used to be the incident that we had, I think, with iguanodon earlier in its reconstruction stages. So basically, the iguanodon was standing on all fours, and you had the thumb spike on the top of its snout, and then later would be finally placed onto um, its foot. But focusing on Ceratosaurus, yeah, definitely standing vertically, but also a bit at like of a diagonal sort of a structure. The rib cage is showing that's a starving Ceratosaurus. The arms are far too small compared to its body size. Let's see. I think it does seem that Ceratosaurus had at least four fingers, and also when it comes to the skull structure, it's far too narrow in this situation. It should be much broader. When it comes to the tail, I mean, I know it's dragging on the ground. That shouldn't be occurring, but there's something about it, like it's possibly a little too robust, or it's the closest to the actual,
I was thinking sauropod.
or the more accurate specimen. Yeah, it has a type of a look too.
The whole thing.
The feet are a bit off though. They almost look like literal reptile feet, or sort of like a reptile and a bird to some extent. And the legs, yeah, they're very far off. There's barely an ankle. Um,
Anything else?
Yeah, I believe also both Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, the two paleontologists from the United States back in the 1800s, did describe this specific species of carnivore.
Identifies Carnosaurus says whenever I eat steak, I rip it up and swallow. I think it's swallow it whole like a dino.
That would have been the instance with pretty much every species of carnivorous dinosaur. Considering they did not have teeth that were designed for chewing, unlike certain species of carnivore today, or even earlier into the Cenozoic era. The only animals that could efficiently chew would really start appearing shortly before this point in the Jurassic with the earlier ornithopods, but still a bit primitive in overall chewing efficiency. But that's only referring to munching on different species of ferns, conifers,
You're referencing
the
only
herbivores. But the carnivores, they simply would have ripped up a chunk of, or I guess pulled off a chunk of flesh, swallowed whole, and then their acidic digestive juices would get to work. So very much like today's crocodiles, a wide range of probably different species of birds, and you could say crocodilians in general. Okay, so thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Kind Live Daily News. Happy International. I'm trying to think. Cetiosaur Day. So referring to the long necked sauropods. I guess we could stick in like the Cetiosaurus and the Pistechosaurid theropods. from the Jurassic of Patagonia. And remember, nothing is better than all animals all the time.